Imagine you're in a room full of people. Constant chatter, incessant notifications, unsolicited opinions about how you should live. This is the world we live in today. An endless stream of noise that rarely allows you to hear your own thoughts. But what would happen if you simply stopped? If you chose to be alone voluntarily? Contrary to a society that constantly pushes you toward superficial connections, there is one truth that few modern men understand. Solitude can be your greatest ally in building inner strength. We're not talking about depressive isolation or social withdrawal. We're talking about conscious solitude, the kind that ancient Stoic philosophers, more than 2,000 years ago, recognized as essential for the development of a virtuous man. When he was confined in a small, rugged coastal town in Maine, let's call it Rockport, John Rufus Monroe didn't waste his time lamenting his fate. Instead, he transformed that forced exile into an opportunity to fortify his mind and spirit. Years later, his insights would inspire renowned thinker Ethan Clarke, who in turn influenced the respected statesman Marcus Aurelius. Three men who at different moments in life embraced solitude and emerged as stronger, more centered, more powerful individuals. The question I invite you to explore now is, what did these ancient Stoics know about being alone that you have yet to discover? In the whirlwind of modern life, few people can distinguish between being alone and feeling lonely. They are fundamentally different experiences. Loneliness is a negative emotional state, marked by a sense of emptiness and disconnection. Solitude, on the other hand, is a conscious choice, a space you create for yourself, free from external expectations and judgments. It is in this space that you find your true essence. Think of Seneca, who wrote, "It is precisely in times of happiness that we must strengthen ourselves against adversity." He knew that moments of voluntary withdrawal are training for situations when isolation is not a choice. When you learn to be comfortable in your own company, no external circumstance will have the power to disturb your inner peace. Who hasn't felt that unease when left alone? That almost compulsive need to check your phone, turn on the TV, or seek any form of distraction? This discomfort reveals something profound. Many men today don't know who they are when no one is watching. They have built their identities as reflections of others' expectations, and in the absence of those external cues, they feel lost. Stoicism offers a different path. In solitude, you have the opportunity to confront your fears, examine your values, and recalibrate your internal compass. Without the constant noise of others' opinions, you can finally listen to the voice of your own reason, the one that has always been there but rarely had the space to be heard. But don't be mistaken, the practice of solitude doesn't mean isolating yourself completely from the world. The Stoics never advocated abandoning social responsibilities. On the contrary, they understood that periodic retreat was precisely what allowed for a more virtuous participation in the community. After moments of solitary reflection, you return to social interaction with more clarity, purpose, and less susceptibility to manipulation and peer pressure. It is important to distinguish between different types of solitude. There is reactive solitude, the kind you seek as an escape from unpleasant situations or difficult emotions. This form rarely strengthens you because it doesn't involve conscious confrontation, only evasion. In contrast, proactive solitude, deliberately sought as a practice of self-cultivation, is what produces genuine growth. The Stoics championed this second form, understanding it as an essential spiritual exercise for developing wisdom. Many confuse the Stoic practice of solitude with the modern concept of me time. Although there are overlaps, the fundamental difference lies in intent. Contemporary me time often aims for pleasure, relaxation, or indulgence. Stoic solitude, on the other hand, does not fear discomfort. In fact, it often seeks it deliberately, recognizing that it is in the friction of self-confrontation that growth occurs. When you spend time alone, you develop a crucial skill, distinguishing between what is and what isn't under your control. Ethan Clarke insisted that some things depend on us, others do not. In solitude, that distinction becomes crystal clear. You begin to see how many of your daily worries revolve around things completely outside your control. And more importantly, you start directing your energy toward what truly matters. How many decisions have you made based on what others might think? How many times did you follow a path, not because it was what you desired, but because it was expected of you? In the absence of an audience, these pressures lose their power. Only then can you make decisions truly aligned with your deepest values. Think back to the pivotal moments in your life. Probably the most important decisions you made weren't taken in the midst of a crowd, but during moments of silence and reflection. It is in solitude that your thoughts clarify, distractions fade, and you can see beyond the immediate. This is a kind of strength that few cultivate today. In our modern age, we are bombarded with the idea that being connected 24/7 is not only normal, but necessary. We have built a society where silence causes anxiety, and alone time is seen as a problem to be solved. Yet if you study the great figures of history, you notice a pattern. They all deeply valued their moments of solitude. It is no coincidence that many influential individuals across various fields incorporated periods of withdrawal into their routines. Just as an athlete needs time to recover after physical exertion, your mind needs periods of solitude to process experiences, consolidate learnings, and reorganize thoughts. This is not unproductive time. It is the most fertile ground for personal growth. Imagine yourself as a fortress. Each moment of solitary reflection is like reinforcing the walls of your inner stronghold. While others build sandcastles, dependent on constant approval, you are constructing something that withstands life's storms. The Stoics understood this. They knew that a man who finds strength in his own company will never be defeated by forced isolation, rejection, or failure. True strength does not come from never falling, but from rising after each fall. And that resilience is forged in moments when you are alone with yourself, confronting your weaknesses without excuses. When adversity arrives, and it certainly will, it won't be external validation that sustains you, but the inner strength cultivated in solitude. Consider how we react to difficulties today. At the slightest hint of emotional discomfort, we tend to seek distractions to avoid confronting our own shadows. Yet this constant escape only weakens us. Stoicism teaches the opposite. It is precisely in facing these shadows that lies our greatest opportunity for growth. Being alone forces you to develop emotional self-reliance. You learn to be the source of your own comfort, to calm your own storms. This is a freedom few truly know. The freedom of not depending on others' presence or approval to feel whole. Moreover, solitude creates space for creativity to flourish. Without the constant barrage of external opinions, your mind can explore new connections and original ideas. It allows you to think outside conventional boundaries, to question the status quo. It is in these moments of solitary contemplation that great visions take shape. Notice how people around you fear silence. Observe how they flee from their own company, always in search of some distraction. This fear reveals a fundamental fragility, an inability to face oneself. By cultivating the practice of conscious solitude, you set yourself apart. You become a man capable of finding stability within, even while others are tossed about by external circumstances. The philosopher Blaise Pascal once observed that all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly alone in a room. Though not a Stoic, his observation perfectly captures the Stoic wisdom on the importance of solitude. When you systematically avoid being alone with yourself, you also avoid the chance for true personal growth. Perhaps you're thinking you don't have time for solitude. Your schedule is packed, your responsibilities many. But this is precisely the condition that makes solitude even more necessary. As Seneca warned, being busy does not necessarily mean you are doing something important. Often it is in the pause, in the retreat, that we discern the essential from the trivial. The practice of solitude doesn't require special circumstances. You don't need to retreat to a monastery or live as a hermit. Small daily moments, dedicated to silent reflection, a solitary walk without your smartphone, Half an hour of focused reading or simply sitting in silence observing your thoughts are accessible to anyone. The Stoics developed specific exercises for these moments. Premeditatio malorum, for example, is a technique where you visualize potential adversities in advance, mentally preparing for them. This exercise, practiced in solitude, strengthens your ability to face real challenges when they arise. Another powerful exercise is the daily review of one's actions. At the end of each day, take time to reflect on what you did well, where you fell short, and how you can improve tomorrow. This honest self-assessment, free from the fear of external judgment, fosters constant, sustainable growth. Remember, your value is not found in external achievements or social recognition. Elements. Ethan Clarke would classify as outside your control. Your true worth lies in cultivating internal virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation. And it is in moments of solitude that these virtues are most deeply examined and developed. You have likely noticed at some point in your life how certain people remain unshaken in the face of life's storms. While others despair at the first setback, these individuals maintain remarkable serenity. What sets them apart is not the absence of problems, but the presence of inner strength cultivated in solitude. They do not need constant validation because they have learned to validate themselves. This is the paradoxical relationship between solitude and strength. The more comfortable you become in your own company, the less you fear imposed loneliness. Situations that break others, a breakup, a layoff, the drifting away of friends, will have less power over you. Not because they don't cause pain, but because you have developed the capacity to process that pain without falling apart. Reflect. On moments when you were completely alone, if those experiences were uncomfortable, ask yourself, what exactly bothered me? Was it the silence that allowed unpleasant thoughts to surface? Was it the absence of distractions that forced you to confront issues you'd been avoiding? This discomfort is not your enemy. It is a signal pointing to areas that need attention. That discomfort has a name in Stoic philosophy. It is the confrontation with one's own shortcomings, the discrepancy between one's declared values and actual actions. The Stoics viewed that moment of unease as a precious opportunity, the precise point where growth can begin. When you remain in that discomfort without fleeing to distractions, you begin the true work of self-improvement. A useful metaphor is to think of solitude as a high-definition mirror for your inner life. Just as some people avoid looking in the mirror when they're out of shape, many flee from solitude when their inner world is in disarray. But just as facing the mirror is the first step to physical transformation, confronting solitude is the first step to spiritual and mental renewal. It is common to confuse genuine connection with mere physical proximity. But how many times have you felt alone even when surrounded by people? True connection, with yourself and with others, arises paradoxically from the ability to be comfortably alone. When you do not depend on others to fill an inner void, your relationships become more authentic, based on choice rather than necessity. The contemporary world conspires against solitude. Electronic devices, social media, constant entertainment. Everything seems designed to keep us perpetually connected and, ironically, perpetually distracted from ourselves. Resisting this trend is a revolutionary act of self-preservation. The recent pandemic forced many into unwanted isolation. For some, it was a traumatic experience. For others, an opportunity for rediscovery. The difference lay precisely in the previously developed ability to be at ease in one's own company. Those who already cultivated moments of voluntary solitude found themselves better equipped to handle enforced isolation. Perhaps you've observed this in yourself or in those around you. People who constantly fled from their own company were hit hardest by the absence of external distractions. Those who already practiced reflective solitude adapted more easily. This is further evidence of the strengthening power of voluntary solitude. Stoicism does not ask you to ignore the pain of unwanted loneliness. On the contrary, it fully acknowledges human suffering. What Stoic philosophy proposes is a form of pre-training, moments of chosen solitude as preparation for life's inevitable adversities. When you embrace solitude voluntarily, You are essentially telling yourself, I can be okay with myself, regardless of external circumstances. This affirmation, when deeply internalized, becomes an unshakable foundation for a life of strength and dignity. History is replete with examples of men who found strength in solitude. Nelson Mandela, confined for 27 years, emerged from his cell not as a broken man, but as a leader of extraordinary moral fortitude. Viktor Frankl, enduring the horrors of a concentration camp, discovered that even when everything was stripped away, he still possessed the freedom to choose his attitude. These men embody the Stoic ideal of inner strength forged in isolation. The question for you now is, how can you incorporate more moments of meaningful solitude into your life? Start small. Set aside 15 minutes daily to be completely alone, free of distractions. Use this time not to plan or solve practical problems, but simply to be present with your thoughts. Notice how your mind initially resists. It will seek distractions, trying to convince you there are more important things to do. This resistance is natural. It is the ego avoiding the challenging work of self-examination. But with persistent practice, you will notice a change. Alone time will become not only tolerable but genuinely desirable. Consider keeping a journal of reflections much like Marcus Aurelius once did, not for others to read, but as an honest dialogue with yourself. Write about your fears, your hopes, your shortcomings. This exercise, in self-discovery, practiced in solitude, will illuminate aspects of yourself that remain hidden amid the daily hustle. Remember that the solitude that strengthens is not the passive absence of people, but the active presence with yourself. It is a state of mindful attention to your own thoughts and emotions, free from judgment or escape. In this sacred space of introspection, you build day after day an inner fortress that no external circumstance can destroy. The more you choose to be alone, the less you fear imposed loneliness. You develop a self-confidence that doesn't depend on constant validation. Your decisions become clearer, less influenced by the fear of rejection or the desire for approval. In essence, you become a free man. Isn't that the true measure of strength? Not the ability to control external circumstances, but the capacity to maintain your inner integrity regardless of them? As Ethan Clarke taught, it is impossible for a man to learn what he believes he already knows. In solitude, you create space for essential humility and acknowledge that there is always more to learn about yourself and the world. The ancient Stoics did not have smartphones or social media, yet they faced their own forms of distraction. The impulse to flee from self-confrontation is nothing new. The tools of escape may have changed, but the challenge remains the same. That is why their teachings on the importance of reflective solitude remain as relevant today as they did 2,000 years ago. By incorporating moments of meaningful solitude into your routine, you swim against the dominant cultural current. Some may see you as odd or even antisocial, but those who have developed the ability to be comfortably alone will recognize a kindred spirit in you. Paradoxically, it is this independence that enables deeper, more authentic connections with others. Think of the great leaders in American history. Many shared a remarkable ability to endure solitude, remaining steadfast in their convictions even when isolated in their roles. Winston Churchill, during the darkest days of World War II, often withdrew for moments of complete solitude before making critical decisions. Abraham Lincoln was known for long periods of solitary reflection that underpinned his extraordinary moral clarity. This is no coincidence. It is a pattern repeated among those who demonstrate exceptional character. The ability to be alone without feeling diminished is particularly important in romantic relationships. Many relationships turn toxic because one or both parties seek in the other a fulfillment that can only come from within. Consciously cultivated solitude allows you to enter a relationship not out of desperate need, but as a deliberate choice. You don't seek someone to complete you, but to complement you, a fundamentally healthier and more satisfying dynamic. The next time you feel that restlessness when alone, do not rush to distractions. Observe that feeling with curiosity. Where does this discomfort come from? Which part of you is trying to avoid facing itself? In these questions lies the path to an uncommon inner strength. Solitude reveals its true nature. In the absence of an audience, who are you really? What thoughts emerge when no one is watching? What desires surface when social expectations fade away? This intimate self-knowledge is the foundation of all genuine strength. Believe in ancient wisdom. It is precisely in moments of voluntary withdrawal that you build the capacity to remain true when the world around you crumbles. It is in the silence of solitude that your inner voice grows stronger, a voice that remains steadfast even when all external noise subsides. Do not fear silence, do not fear your own company. These are opportunities in disguise, doorways to a strength few know. The man who learns to be alone without feeling lonely develops a superpower in a world of constant dependence and distraction. Just as a muscle grows stronger under tension, your spirit is fortified in moments of solitude. Every instance of honest self-confrontation, every moment of reflective silence, every period of voluntary quiet is an investment in building an invincible inner fortress. Allow yourself this encounter with yourself, not as an escape from the world, but as preparation to face it with greater strength, clarity, and authenticity. Solitude is not your enemy. It is your most powerful ally in the journey to become who you truly are. And remember Seneca's words, "The most important thing is the courage to never let circumstances defeat us." That courage is forged in solitude, when you learn that your strength does not depend on external factors, but on the relationship you cultivate with yourself. In the end, the greatest lesson Stoicism teaches about solitude is this: a man who fears being alone will never be truly free, but the one who finds strength in his own company has conquered the most fundamental freedom, being complete by himself. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, "Withdraw within yourself." By nature, a rational being finds all contentment within if they follow the right path. This is the essence of the strength born of solitude, the discovery that everything you truly need is already inside you, waiting to be recognized in the silence of introspection. A fundamental aspect rarely discussed about solitude is its role in building character. Character isn't formed in moments of public glory or social recognition. It develops in private moments when no one is watching. It is when you choose the difficult path without witnesses, when you resist temptation without anyone ever knowing, when you persist in your efforts without applause. This is when your true character is revealed and strengthened. Consider the small daily decisions you make when you are completely alone. These seemingly insignificant choices are the bricks with which your character is built, brick by brick, day after day. The Stoics understood that greatness does not come from occasional heroic gestures, but from the consistency of small virtues practiced daily, especially when no one is watching. Another rarely mentioned benefit of solitude is its ability to heighten your appreciation for life. When you are constantly surrounded by stimuli, your sensitivity diminishes, like a palate accustomed to overly spiced food that loses its ability to savor subtle flavors. In solitude, your senses recalibrate. A sunset, the sound of rain, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, simple experiences gain an unexpected depth. This renewed sensitivity enriches your life in ways that constant distraction never could. Remember that solitude is not just a state you experience, but a skill you develop. Like any skill, it improves with consistent practice. The initial moments of voluntary solitude may be uncomfortable, even distressing. Your mind, conditioned to constant distraction, will protest. But with perseverance, you will discover an increasing ability to inhabit this inner space with calm and purpose. There comes a point, a threshold of solitude, when alone time ceases to be something you merely tolerate and transforms into something you actively seek. Crossing that threshold is a significant achievement in a world that conspires against introspection. A powerful Stoic practice is to contemplate your own mortality during moments of solitude, not as a morbid exercise, but as a vivid reminder of life's finiteness. When you realize that your days are limited, your priorities become instantly clear. Trivial concerns vanish, and what truly matters emerges with crystalline clarity. This exercise, practiced regularly in solitude, produces a sober mental state that is the very definition of inner strength. The Stoics also practiced what we might call conscious gratitude. In moments of solitary reflection, they recounted not only the grand gifts of life, but also the small, everyday blessings that easily go unnoticed amid the daily hustle. This practice cultivates an inner richness that makes you less vulnerable to the ups and downs of external fortune. When you develop the habit of reflective solitude, you create an inner refuge that is always available, no matter where you are. In a tense meeting, a chaotic environment, or even during a crisis, you can retreat to this inner space of clarity and calm. This ability to withdraw even amid a storm is perhaps the purest manifestation of the strength that comes from solitude. Consider how solitude affects your relationship with time. In our fast-paced world, time is experienced as a scarce resource slipping away. In moments of conscious solitude, your sense of time expands. A single, fully inhabited moment can contain more life than hours of distracted existence. This temporal abundance is a source of strength often overlooked. During your moments alone, allow yourself to contemplate not only your thoughts and emotions, but also your core values. Which principles are non-negotiable for you? For which ideals would you be willing to suffer? The man who clarifies his values in the quiet of introspection will not be easily swayed when social pressures arise. Another important effect of solitude is on your relationship with material possessions. In the silence of self-reflection, it becomes clear how little you truly need for a fulfilling life. This understanding frees you from the cycle of endless consumerism and the status symbol of accumulation. As Seneca noted, it is better to control your appetites today than to desire more tomorrow. The deliberate practice of solitude also enhances your ability to concentrate, a rare resource in today's world. When you regularly spend time without distractions, your concentration muscle strengthens, enabling a depth of thought and execution that sets you apart in any endeavor. So, the next time you have the opportunity to be alone, do not view it as an empty void to be filled, but as a sacred space to be honored. It is in this space that you become stronger than you ever imagined possible.